Hi everyone, my name is Danielle Wood, and I'm going to present this context book to you on The Shallows by Nicholas Carr. The Shallows sets out to address the question, what is the internet doing to our brains? This book is an absolutely fascinating look at how the brain has changed over time, what this looks like, and consequently what this means. Basically, we have the brain working as an evolving process. Technology has changed, and this is not simply your iPads and your smartphones. This goes back to the basic principles of technology, language and communication, written language, and then into the print medium with tablets and papyrus scrolls and the Gutenberg's printing press. The evolution continues, but within each there's tremendous shifts in what this is doing to our brain. The concept is simple, though the process is complex. Technology shapes who we are. This quote reiterates this point. Our brains can continuously evolve. The most important lessons we've learned from the study of neuroplasticity is that the mental capacities, the very neurological circuits we develop for one purpose, can be put to other uses as well. I think of our brain now as more like a rewritable DVD. We can keep rewriting, adding new technology with new processes to work. So we can see this basic idea in language. After the Gutenberg's printing press was put into use, the English language exploded from a few thousand words to a million words. As books were produced, writers were able to add further complex thoughts and emotions, leading to this in-depth addition to the English language. We also see this with the simple idea of fiction reading. The process of reading is an active process, not passive process. This is the case because as readers read, they enact the scenes in their head. Deep reading became the norm, and it allowed books to become the primary medium for the exchange of knowledge. This then promoted the discipline for complex thought. So this makes this process clear now. There's a cyclical nature for technology changes. Who we are, or the state of being, affects our behavior, which affects our thinking. As thinking shifts with our behaviors, it changes who we are, and so forth. Reading allowed complex thoughts to come about. Complex thoughts began to increase our language, which then aided and increased our reading capacities and ability to create complex thoughts. As technology advanced past the printed book, the changes are no different. Our brain is constantly adjusting. Carr mentions that your brain changes in some way with every action that you do. Therefore, your brain is never the same. So let's look at this in libraries. We all know this shift, but it was amusing to see this written here. Libraries were once known as the oasis for bookish tranquility, Carr writes, but now the modern library is predominantly dominated by the sound of tapping keys, not the turning of pages. Well, we're knowing this shift as hyperconnectivity. So this hyperconnectivity, this is adjusting our brains as well. The internet brings with it frequent interruptions. Email, Facebook, heck, even cat YouTube videos. Well, these frequent interruptions scatter our thoughts and weaken our memory. I want to put a pause here though, because I don't think the message that this is a bad thing, but that it's just one more shift. In fact, it was noted that some are claiming that the period in which our brains adjusted to silent reading, stillness and deep thoughts was an abnormality in human nature. That really makes you think. What if what everyone who is, let's say, anti-technology is clinging to is really just a period of abnormality? Where we're really seeing the change is in the field of education. We've been hearing for a while now that education is just not working in its current context. So what can be done? There's two fundamental issues I see from David Carr's research. One, memory content is just not the same when reading electronic mediums as in print mediums. The other factor is that linear reading is shown to help people remember instead of electronic documents laced with hypertext and multimedia. Yet the role of educators needs to be in educating individuals to this new medium that is nearly omnipresent at this point. Studies show that it doesn't take much for our brains to adjust and learn to adapt to the internet. The prefrontal cortex is used when web searching. For users unaccustomed to the web, after only 5 days of 1 hour a day on web searching, their brains showed that it had rewired itself to meet this objective. So it doesn't take much. Small bits of exposure is probably best. Long lectures may be a thing of the past to keep our attentions. Breaking things up with media may not also be the best technique, as it's shown that less material is retained this way. A happy medium must be found. So I want to go back to this process. You see the state of being moving into behavior, into thinking, and then back to the state of being. I think this process really needs to be thought about for librarians or for any individual looking at our new way of thinking in this new world. So just what can librarians do? What is our role in this transition? I see a few different roles for librarians and how they can adopt this and how can they work with it. One thing, I think that we can adjust how we construct our educational programs. Embracing the idea that frequent interruptions are inevitable is something that can be utilized so that we can have topics that keep our attention spans. Broader topics around central topics maybe, but shifting things within it might be a way to utilize this. Beyond this, we need to learn new users' behavior. It's essential. One thing we see is that people just don't read web pages anymore. They skim. Studies have been found that the pattern resembles the letter F. Does anybody work in web design in their library? Clearly, these concepts need to be utilized to tap into that F pattern. Keep information where people are likely to grab it. So this is just a couple ways that librarians can adjust. I do think that this is simply another change that we're seeing in society, though. I would not be afraid of it, nor worried that it's damaging our memories or brains. It's an inevitable change. We simply need to ride the wave and understand it so that we can find the right way to work with these people and these new users' way of thinking. Well, I thank you all for watching this presentation and encourage you to pick up Nicholas Carr's The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains.